So good talk to everyone. I want to talk about Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur and the Yamim Noraim, but mostly I want to speak about tefillah. And as the poster said, perhaps the hidden component of tefillah that people don't realize so much. And I think I myself only sort of focused into it recently and realized that this is really the whole story, everything that we're meant to be doing when we daven and when we live as Jews. Nothing less than that. And I want to quote you the Shulchan Aruch. This is not as you know, the Shulchan Aruch is in Mishnah Berurah. This is not a book of Kabbalah or a book of, this is going to drive my people online. So Shulchan Aruch, this is the simple guide written by Rav Yaacov Haber for every Jew to keep. And there's a siman in Shulchan Aruch, Tzadik Ches, which talks about how to have kavanah in tefillah. We all know the word kavanah. Very few people understand how to translate the word kavanah. Is it intention? Is it kivun as a sort of direction? Perhaps it's intentionality. But kavanah, what does it mean, the Shulchan Aruch's description of kavanah? And he says the following. It's a bit of a surprise. Hamispalel, that when we're davening, tzarich sheyasir kol hamachshavos ad shetishoyer machshavtei v'kavanasei zaka b'tfilasei. Main component of tefillah or kavanah is that we stop thinking not just about everything else, but we stop thinking. It sounds very counterintuitive, but I'd like to explain it on the highest level that I know how. We should take a lesson, says the Shulchan Aruch, from the original Chasidim v'Anshe Maisa. It means in the time of the Gemara. And there the Gemara says that those original pious people, when they used to daven, so they used to spend an hour preparing for the davening, an hour preparing for the davening, an hour davening, and an hour coming down back to earth from the davening. 3 times a day would require 9 hours. And the Gemara says, how's anybody supposed to spend 9 hours a day busy with their tefillah? And the Gemara gives a very practical answer and says, do the best you can. We don't have to necessarily get to where they were, but we need to get somewhere. Obviously, when one davens, one should understand what they're davening. Today, that's very easy. There's translations of the siddur. There's all kinds of shiurim on the siddur. That's not what I'm talking about here tonight. But one should understand the words. When I'm talking about davening, tefillah, when the Shulchan Aruch is talking about tefillah, he's specifically talking about Shemona Esrei. Not talking about all the other preliminary tefillahs or the after tefillahs. He's not even talking about the Shema. I'm going to explain the Shema and how this works, but he's talking about Shemona Esrei. Shemona Esrei in the language of the Gemara is called tefillah. When we say tefillah, it means Shemona Esrei. Says the Shulchan Aruch, Chen hayu eisen chasidim v'anshe maisa. This is what those first chasidim were doing. What were they doing there for an hour before, an hour during, an hour after? So the Shulchan Aruch explains, hayu mispodadim, they did what's called today hispashus. They meditated all by themselves. Umechavnim b'tfilasam ad she'magiam lehispashus hagashmis. And that's really, advertised on the poster, the secret, the missing piece. This is the missing piece, this word. Hispashus hagashmus. hitpashtut. It's easy to keep on reading, but it's not easy to know what that means. Hispashus. How do we practice hispashus? What does it mean? I will explain. Ad shehayu magiyim, and we get to a place where we are karov lamalas hanavua. Says the Shulchan Aruch. It's not a Kabbalah sefer. Shulchan Aruch. That by practicing hispashus, so we come to a level which is not exactly, he says, but it's karov lamalas hanavua. You're almost at the same place that a Navi is when a Navi is saying his nevuah. Navi. Navi was the holiest person in Klal Yisrael, and perhaps more important than that was that Navi or Neviah was taking something spiritual and bringing it into the physical world. It's something like creation itself. Creation itself is yesh me'ayin. It's Hashem taking something which is beyond anything physical and turning that, we should call it something spiritual, but I don't like the word spiritual because I don't think it describes anything. It's just the opposite of physical. But Hashem took something which was not physical, and when he created the world, he made it physical. Hispashus is when you take something physical, that would be us, and you turn it into something spiritual. And that is the definition that I want to explain tonight. In other words, there's a spiritual world, the world of Shemayim, the world of Hashem. The Kabbalists divided into many worlds, Hatzilos, Bria, Yetzirah, see all kinds of things, which maybe we'll talk about if we have a minute. But bottom line of the thing is that Hashem took something which is beyond physical and made it physical. And we have to take something hispashus, the practice of hispashus, which is exactly what a Navi did. A practice of hispashus takes that physical world that we live in all day long, and we're supposed to live in that world. But for the moment or hour of tefillah, we're taking something which is very physical. We're with ourselves all day long, and we get to a place of hispashus. What does the word hispashus mean? So it's very interesting because hispashus means, in translation, two opposite things. The root of the word is pashut. Everybody knows what pashut means. Simple, unsophisticated. Nothing with a lot of different parts to it. Ultimately, when we talk about Hashem, we talk about the echad hapashut, the most simple level of oneness. Now, it's not simple for me. What does that mean? But it means that what we can understand, what we can grasp, is that in life there's light, there's darkness, there's good, there's evil, there's war, there's peace. There's all kinds of divisions. There's me, there's you. There's Zachar, there's Nekeva. There's Jews, there's not Jews. Just a Havdalah, all the different things, all the different things. But that's all the way Hashem created the world. But important to know, within the context of all the divisions of the world, that there's echad. Echad hapashut. Hispashus means that we can unravel. Lit pashet means almost to take it off. When you take something off, that's lit pashet. Lit pashet, from the same word, also means to spread. needs to be explained, the connection between hitpashet, to spread, and pashut, and even in our modern Hebrew, hitpashet is when you take off your coat, when you take off your something that you're wearing, so that's hitpashet. So what are we doing here? It's not just an important word, it's an important concept, because that is the avodah of tefillah. Everybody with me on this? Yeah? No? So let's explain a little bit. First of all, I mentioned this before, when you get up in the morning, like when you're sleeping, you're almost dead. The Gemara says it's 1/60th of dead, so that's not almost. The Zohar says much more, much more than that. So much so that at least part of our neshama leaves us, which is most people's definition of death, and stands before Hashem. And then the alarm goes off. The day begins. It's annoying, because we're in this primordial state. We're sleeping, our neshama's in front of Hashem, and then the alarm goes off, time to start the day. When we get up in the morning, we say Moda Ani, we acknowledge the fact, you could say this even before you wash your hands. We acknowledge the fact that Moda Ani Lefanecha, thank you Hashem, Shechzarta bi nishmasi b'chemla. Thank you for giving me back my neshama, here I am. I'm in bed. Shechzarta bi nishmasi. But then we say two brachas. Very, very important we should first of all say these brachas, but understand them. The first bracha we say, presumably a few minutes after you get up, is Asher Yatzar Es Ha'adam B'chachma. This is the bathroom bracha, this is the bracha we make, but that's not what the bracha is about. The bracha is about the fact that Hashem created us and gave us a body. Read the words. Baravai nekavim, nekavim, chalulim, chalulim, our heart works, our brain works, our blood circulates. That's Hashem. All the different things that are going on in our goof, in our body, every minute of the day, less so while we're sleeping, but certainly when you're awake, everything starts to work. And that's the bracha of Asher Yatzar. When do you say the bracha? So the Chazal said a good time to say it is after one goes to the shiur. But that's not what the bracha is about. It's a time to appreciate the fact, Asher Yatzar Es Ha'adam B'chachma, the fantastic niflois habayri, the fantastic chachma that Hashem used to make the body. Anybody who studied any biology or medicine or Loleno has been sick knows how complex and how beautiful and how, remember a doctor once told us when our first son was born, I said, why does this go wrong? He says, the only question anybody could ever ask is why things don't go wrong all the time. Yeah? So that's the Asher Yatzar Es Ha'adam B'chachma Baravai nekavim, nekavim, chalulim, chaluim, goloi v'yadu lifnei kisei kvadecha. Look, the Kisei HaKavod gets in here. It is well known in front of Hashem's throne, Kisei HaKavod. She'imi paseach echad mehem, v'yisasem echad mehem, when something doesn't work, efshar li'izkayim lefanecha afilu sha'echas, we would not be able to exist. So the first thing we do when we get up in the morning is we're thanking Hashem for our body, for the fact that our body, our biology, our anatomy, all of that works. And then we say another bracha. Elikai, we say, Neshama shenosato bi tahirahi. Besides for giving me an operating body, like a vessel, a kli, a machine that works, also give me another thing, Neshama shenosato bi tahirahi, and it's like very pure. It was just cleansed all night long. It was purifying all night long. And look what happens with this neshama. We say this, everybody says this, Ata barasa, Ata yitzarta, Ata nefachta, there's your worlds, right? The world of Bria, Yetzira, Asiya. I said we'll explain a little bit later, but it's a wow, like the neshama is coming from the Shemayim. And just like by Adam Arishon, Ata nefachta bi, it was blown into Adam Arishon. So here, there's your example. Adam is a person who's created, but he's a machine. He's unable to do anything. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu came along personally, vayipach ba'apav nishmas chaim. And he blew into him the neshama. So the second bracha we make when we get up in the morning, after we thank Hashem for the machinery and the technology, which is so spectacular, right after that, and thank you for putting within me, in this body, a neshama. The neshama doesn't just give us life. The neshama is, in the words of the Zohar, chelek elekai mimal. We're talking about HaKadosh Baruch Hu left. I can't even say the words a piece of him because it's not the right way of saying it, but it's a chelek elekai mimal. I see it in my simple mind as a, what's a neshama? We all talk about the neshama all day long, and nobody stops to think, what is that? What is that? It's the second bracha that we say, thank you for giving me a body, thank you for giving me a neshama. Look at it for this moment as a sort of a transmitter. A transmitter from Hashem. And this is how HaKadosh Baruch Hu, talks to me. We don't hear the neshama because it's so noisy. A Navi gets to hear his own neshama. And by hearing his own neshama, he's hearing the word of Hashem, and then he's telling it to everybody. How do I know that that's true? Because the Rambam says so. The Rambam says that there are, in his words, and that's a word that we use today, in his words, a person has a body and a neshama. This is the Rambam in Shemona Prakim, I think it's the third parak. He says, Avol yesh by vilonot. There are many mechitzas, many curtains, many separations between my body and my neshama. He calls them vilonos. Okay, so you're getting up in the morning, opening the shades, trying to create a connection between our body and our neshama. And this is the work of hispashus. Hispashus means that I've made a clear path between my body and my soul. And this is the way I stand in front of Hashem. This is the way the Shulchan Aruch says I have to daven. If you don't do this, even if you shuckle a lot, even if you cry a lot, crying is good, right, tefillah? Because the Gemara says that that's a sign that you have reached your neshama. Shari Demois Leinin Alu. But the idea of tefillah, the whole point of the exercise, beyond everything else, beyond even all the words that it says there, the point of the whole thing is to connect the body and the neshama and let the neshama speak to you. Now, if you're a Navi, so now you tell it over to everybody else because you got something for the message for the benefit of the whole Jewish people. But most often, and most of us are not really Nevi'im, but Nevuah is not just about what you say. Nevuah is a madrega, right? A Nevuah is where we're holding at that moment. We're holding, as the Shulchan Aruch says, Karev Lamalas HaNevuah, something like a Navi, which is, for at least for the time in the Nevuah, and for us for the time of davening, Shemona Esrei, we're connected. So it's a new idea of how to go into tefillah. And I would go so far, I don't want to be radical, but if we don't make an attempt at this, then we're not really davening. I would also say, I grew up, I don't see it so much anymore, but I grew up like when out of town, and There were some bunch of European Jews. And there was something called like a Tillemzugger man. A Tillemzugger, there was a man in the shul. And I guess he was a tzaddik, but he would finish the whole Tillim every day. It was clear to me that he didn't understand a word of it. He also wasn't a sophisticated person, not in Torah and not secularly, just like a Pashut Yid. It's hard to find Pashut Yidden because everybody's like so sophisticated. We know so much. I kind of miss the Pashut Yidden. And he told us, don't be a Pashut Yid like me. Go learn Torah. Become sophisticated. Understand every Rashi and every Tosfos, and get clarity in Gemara. Don't be so Pashut. But what's with this guy, or it could be a woman, a man, it doesn't make any difference, a child, who says the whole Tehillim, sometimes even cries while he's saying the Tehillim, and doesn't understand a word of what he's saying. So I don't know, like the halachas of how much of Tehillim you have to understand. I think most people say Tehillim don't know what they're saying. Unless you go to the rabbits and shiur, just give a shiur and Tehillim. But I don't think you have to understand it, because what's going on there, when you're saying Tehillim, or when this man was saying Tehillim anyway, was hispashus. He was otherworldly. There was nothing gashmius about him, exactly as the Shulchan Aruch says. He lifted himself to a place of neshama, of talking to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The words per se were not even the point. The connection is really the point. You understand this? It's the connection. The Shulchan Aruch only later talks about trying to understand the words. Most important thing is this connection. So this man, Pashut Yid, he was like a Navi. He was like a Navi. Why don't we have so many Pashut Yidden anymore? Not because we're so sophisticated, also that, but because there's a lot of noise. And somehow, my father told me that this particular man that I'm thinking of, his name was David Simcha, that this guy I'm thinking of, so what he did for a living, I didn't know he made a living, but what he did for a living is he used to, like different people that own different parts of real estate, so he used to go there and just make sure everything was going okay. He didn't fix anything or stuff like that. It just was to make sure that everything was okay. But he used to go there and used to go into these apartments and he used to say, Tillim again. A Tillemzugger, a Pashut Yid. What he was practicing is this Pashut, which is Pishut, which is hispashus. And here's the thing. Shulchan Aruch says, get rid of your thoughts. And this I want to go back to the two brachas. I mean, we are what we think, yes? No. We're neshama, we have a guf. It's a fantastic, as we spoke about, it's a fantastic accessory, this body of ours. And we're able to think. That thinking belongs to the body, not to the soul. Can anybody stop thinking for a minute? Very hard. It's noise. It's a fantastic tool. It teaches us, informs us what we should do, what the next step should be, how to calculate things, how to know what to say and what not to say. It's all seichel, achshava. But it belongs to the guf. So let's move to our emotional part. Regesh. How does that fit in? It belongs to the guf. It belongs to the body. It doesn't belong to the soul. The neshama doesn't think. The neshama doesn't feel. We think, we feel. Talking, what does that belong to? Guf. I'm going to eliminate just about everything we do. We talk, we think, we're intelligent, we calculate. Brilliant people like Jews, wow. Unbelievable technology we can create. Instincts, our intuition. Where does that belong to? The body or the neshama? It's the Arizal, it's the body. When we talk about, everything I'm saying is from the Arizal. I'm not saying anything on my own. I don't know anything. And you understand why I don't like the word spiritual? It's not descriptive of what we're talking about here. I don't think. When we're talking about hispashus, the way we stand in front of Hashem, what we're talking about is get rid of the goof. Just for a couple of minutes, if you can, for 3 hours like these guys. Just for a couple of minutes. Maybe for a minute, maybe for a second. You know what we say on Yom Kippur? We say, here's an opportunity. We don't eat. If we're healthy enough, we don't eat. We don't wear fancy shoes. We don't indulge ourselves in any type of bathing. So what do we do? Lifnei Hashem titaru. This is an opportunity, Yom Kippur. This is an opportunity to stand lifnei Hashem, in front of Hashem, titaru, in a pure state. Stand in a pure state for a minute, you're like a Navi. The Navi, for the moment of his nevuah, or I have no idea how long, it's not brought down anywhere that I could find, how long it took, like Yecheskel Navi, to see the whole Maaseh Merkava. I have a feeling, right, the most complicated nevuah in the whole Tanakh. I have a feeling it probably took a second. It was a vision. You know, like the Arizal says, it's like being lost, walking in a dark, pitch black forest and not knowing where you're going, and all of a sudden there's a bolt of lightning, and for a second you can see everything. But that second you need to memorize. You need to internalize. You need to make it part of yourself. That's the moment of tefillah that we have the capability, the capacity to reach. So it's saying like this. Let's be clear. I want to keep this very down to earth because I am myself very down to earth. But you know, we're involved with our bodies, with our health, with our thoughts, with our feelings, with our ego, like every waking moment. Isn't it true? Like, why do we get so upset at things, and why do we get so angry at people and so offended by people? And the reason, it all belongs to the goof. That all belongs to the goof. It all belongs to the goof. And we are human. The answer is, we are human. The Tomer Dvorah says, I'm saying it in my words, not in his words, that people say, listen, I'm only human. So Tomer Dvorah says, that's the Moshe Gordavaro, the Ramak, the Rabbi at Arizal. He says, only human? Human is fantastic. What a human being can do is completely get in touch with the neshama and thereby stand before Hashem. Fantastic, a goal. it's a goal I wanted to share as we go into Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. Let me be a little bit, there's a word in English called, I just learned this word. It's a psychological condition. I've learned a lot about psychological conditions, things that I've been watching for the last 50 years. All of a sudden I see there's words for them. Wow, they have names. So there's a psychological condition called aphantasia. Aphantasia in Hebrew, aphantasia in English. What does it mean? The inability to imagine. Kishmo Keno. In other words, some people could see black and white, and they're just simply unable to see beyond. They're really stuck in this black and white. They can't even see a gray area. It's a learning disability. They can't see they can't hear that which wasn't said, and they can't see that which the eye doesn't see, and they can't understand that which the front cortex of the brain doesn't process. It's a psychological problem. And they certainly have a hard time seeing the neshama. It's Motzei Shabbos. I'll tell you a story. Because it comes into my mind. When a story comes into my mind, Motzei Shabbos, I tell the story. That's what you're supposed to do. But there's a story of the second Karliner Rebbe, Chassidish Rebbe. And he became the Rebbe when he was, I think, 10 years old. Became the Chassidish Rebbe. Meaning that it fell to him, his grandfather died, and left in his will that he should be the Rebbe, and he was the Rebbe, 10 years old. How do you be a Rebbe at 10 years old? I don't know how to be a Rebbe at 80 years old, but how are you a Rebbe at 10 years old? So they assigned to the Rebbe, the big Hasidim, the older Hasidim, they assigned to the Rebbe an RIT. He's a Rebbe in training. So they assigned somebody to train him how to be a Rebbe. This is what you do. This is what you do in the morning. This is what you do in the afternoon. This is how you see people. This is how you take kvitla. This is what you do with the kvitla. Everything that a Rebbe has to know. They're training him how to do this. 10, 11, I don't remember, something like that, under bar mitzvah. So, okay, he's being trained to be a Rebbe. He is the Rebbe. The Hasidim are already giving him a lot of kavod, but he's being trained to know how to be a proper Rebbe in Klal Yisrael, a relatively large group of people. The trainer, which is an older chassid, a tzaddik, comes into the Rebbe's room, child, on Erev Shabbos, and he sees that the child is packing his clothes up in a suitcase. So the trainer, I would love that job, trainer, training the Rebbe. Trainer says to him, Rebbe, where are you going? Don't you know that Rebbes don't travel on Erev Shabbos? Erev Shabbos, not Plaga Mincha on the afternoon. Rebbes don't travel on Erev Shabbos. It's a Kabbalah from all the Rebbes from the Baal Shem Tov. Don't travel on Erev Shabbos. Where are you going? Where are you packing your suitcase? He says, I have to go. He says, where do you have to go? He says that, because I got a message. Explain to him how he got a message. He got a message from a certain Yid who lives far away, who's a farmer, and that farmer lives off one cow, only one cow, and the cow is sick. So he sent me a note, asking me if I can daven for the cow. Rabbi, can you daven for the cow? This is my whole parnasa from the cow, the milk. So I have to daven for the cows. So the trainer says to him, you have to daven for the cow, but you don't have to go stand next to the cow and daven for the cow. You can daven for the cow from here. You're a Rebbe, you can daven for the cow from here. And the child looks at the trainer, old man, and he says, don't you understand that when this man is saying, come daven for my cow, it's not the cow. He wants to have a Rebbe in his house. He wants to see the light of Chassidus. He's isolated there in a farm. He's away from people. He doesn't have a Shabbos minyan. He doesn't have a Yontiv minyan. He doesn't have all the things, though, the schools, anything. What he was really coming up with was an excuse of this child, the child Rabbi. He's looking for an excuse of how to get me over there. Didn't make a difference to the cow, not the cow, and that's why I'm going. So the older chassid said, if you heard that, you need no more training. You're a Rebbe. If you hear what a person is saying when they didn't say it, if you see what a person wants to show you even though they're not showing it to you, if you can get beyond the machshava, the dibur, the maisa, the writing, the black and white, then you're a Rebbe. I'm going to give that Rebbe a promotion. He's a Navi. Because a Navi is the one that practices hispashus. If you can't do that, then not only you can't be a Navi, but you can't even stand before Hashem, not during the week, not on Yom Kippur. Lifnei Hashem titara, I have to be in a state of complete tara. So what does that mean? I find it probably, not that I think so much, but I find it very difficult to stop thinking. I mean, it's kind of like automatic, there's no switch. How do you stop thinking? You work on it. How do you stop feeling? You work on it. What are we working on? We're working on Lifnei Hashem. We're working on contacting ourselves with our neshama for, like I say, a moment maybe. And during that moment, we're standing with Hashem when we're thinking about Hashem Echad. So then all of this stuff is gone my thoughts are gone for the minute. Rabbi's machshavos blevish. Atzas Hashem hisaku. Atzas Hashem, it doesn't mean that whatever you think, it's going to come out differently than you think, or might come out differently. That's not what it means. It means something much deeper. That you are not your thoughts. Atzas Hashem. It's the neshama. It's Rashi says. It's the neshama, hisaku. That's the essence. Not that we are our neshama, because we say in that bracha, Elokai neshama shinosata bi. So there's a bi here. I'm here. But I'm a device. All those parts that are part of the technology of what we are, try to put it aside. Lifnei Hashem, by thinking, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. I'll tell you a moment of Kabbalah. Hashem created the world with an or pashut, with a simple light. That's all I know about the subject. But I'm able to imagine, and so can you, what a simple light is. Because, all the colors are in the light. As soon as it hits something, it reflects that color. And, these are called the seven spheros, all the gavonim. If you daven the Sfard, say kigavna, the inun, different colors, Kabbalistic colors and Kabbalistic manifestations and emanations. And, okay, not our business so much. But the world was created, Hashem created the world with an or pashut. There's our word, pashut. With a very simple, clear light. Then it got complicated. Life is complicated. Our thoughts are complicated. Our marriages are complicated. Our health is complicated. Our body's complicated. We're all complicated people. People are complicated. That's just the way it is. We are very complicated. Can we become uncomplicated for a minute? So this is the exercise. Let me just show you something before I wind up here. The way davening works, let's take a simple morning shacharis. So the way davening works, if you have one of those very fancy sidurim, like a Kabbalistic siddur, so on the top of each part of the davening, on top of each section of the davening, I daven with the siddur, but if it says what world you're in, and what world you're going to. How about that? Important information to know. So there's 4 worlds that were identified by the Mekubalim. This is, don't get nervous, it's very easy for everybody to understand. There's the world of, like when Hashem created the world, think of it as like a conveyor belt, So it starts off Atzilus. It actually starts off probably before that, but nobody knows what that is. It starts off Atzilus. Atzilus means Eitzel Hashem. It also means by Yatzal min Ruach, like the spreading of this Or Pashut. But Atzilus is the highest world that we can begin to understand, if we could understand it at all. But every single thing in the world, everything that was created and is constantly being created moment by moment. The world is a constant dynamic. Everything that's been being created goes through the stages of Atzilus, where it's nothing that we can put under a microscope or touch or feel. It goes through the world of Bria. It goes through the world of Yetzirah, and it comes to the world of Asiya. I'm going to make it easy for us. Asiya is the world we live in. Touch, feel, all the doctors, psychologists, physicists, engineers. They know a lot about the world of Asiya. That's what they're busy with. That's good. Thank God. That's what they're busy with. Without the world of Asiya, there would not be this building here, and it certainly wouldn't be air conditioned. Asiya is amazing. Ad kedei kach that I could talk here, and they can listen in a different country. That's all in the world of Asiya. Science. We love science. We love technology, but it's all in this world of Asiya. And then you hit the, like the glass ceiling, and all of a sudden you could be in a different world. From the world of Asiya, you can go up to the world of Yetzirah, up to the world of Bria. What happens? Bria, by the way, just for information, Bria is two things that I know about Bria. The world of Bria starts in Atzilus. Everything is being created. Starts in Atzilus, goes into the world of Bria. Bria is where things start to take form. Bria, the second world, is where neshamas are made. Bria is where the kisei hakavod is. Facts. Remember we say Asher Yotzar? When we're talking about Asher Yotzar, it seems like the most, gashmius of brachas. It starts with the kisei hakavod. Think about this when you say it. This is where Hashem began the connection and the marriage between the guf and the neshama. The neshamas are made from under the kisei hakavod, in the words of the Gemara. And the guf is coming along, and this is coming and it's taking place. This connection is taking place all the time by the kisei hakavod. So when you created me, Hashem, you already knew that you have to give me a body that works. Baruch Hashem, most of us have a body that works, and if it doesn't, it's health is a mystery. Illness is a mystery. It's a mystery. We don't know. We don't understand everything. But if all goes well, so in the world of Bria, Lifnei Kisei Kvodecha, we had a guf and a neshama coming together. Bria, it starts to take form. Yetzirah, Yotzar, Asher Yotzar es Adam b'chachma, right? Yotzar, that's the world of Yetzirah, where things are really sort of happening until things get into the world of Asiya. Think about somebody who invents something. Let's say an inventor. So that inventor, maybe he starts off with, I'm just giving a metaphor. He starts off with an idea, just an idea. It's hard to but then he starts to take the idea and he starts to give it some shape. He writes it down. He makes a drawing. Maybe he tells it to somebody. It starts to get some form. That's like Bria. Then maybe he makes a prototype. So that's already like Yitzhira. There's something, and you're looking, why do you make a prototype? You're looking at it and saying, does it work? Maybe it needs to be a little bit smoother. Maybe it needs to be a little bit blacker, a little whiter, or a little bit smaller, a little bigger. Until it gets to the world of Asiya, which is the production line, and there's your Mac, It's the same type of an idea. Obviously, these analogies can't be exact, but it's the same type of idea of what's happening in creation every moment, but from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So we get up in the morning, we make these 2 brachas, and then we start to daven. As soon as we start to daven, it's to try and not, let's say, take care of too much of your own gashmias before you do this is desired, meaning we try not to eat a meal, and we try not to get too much involved in our gashmias. This is what you have to do to daven. And the first thing we do with our body is get rid of it. Because it's hispashus. This is covered for Hashem. The first thing we do in the morning is get rid of it. And how do we get rid of it? By davening. Get rid of it, I don't mean that it's a negative thing. Please understand. I'm not saying anything bad about the goof. We should love ourselves and our bodies. But what I'm saying is that we have to learn how to be something independent of it also. So we go through davening, and just want to say something briefly here. You start off with Baruch Shamar. You start off with Psukei de Zimra. Psukei de Zimra is verses of song. Song. It's all psukim that David HaMelech said, poetry. It was set to music. Music is like one small step above the very menial part of life. So when we wake up, I open up our eyes and we say, wow, I hear the rooster. Wow, my eyes are working. Oh, my feet are working. Well, I got some clothes to put on. But then we start the hispashus with Psukei de Zimra, with some song. We don't have to run around dancing and singing, but if you want to do that, do that. Not here, maybe. But the idea is we're starting our reach. We're starting our ascent of hispashus and moving upwards. We say Psukei de Zimra, starts with Baruch Shamar, ends with Yishtabach. It has a bracha before it, has a bracha afterwards. And then we start moving to the next level. It's really level 3. Because the first level you say before Psukei de Zimra, the brachas, karbanos. So we move to level 3. Let's just get clear. What is level 2? Our emotions. Okay, emotions is better than just, being a goof. But we need to move up from there. What's our next thing that we tackle? Birchos, Kriya Shema, and Kriya Shema. That's all about our philosophy, our thinking, the oneness of Hashem. Everything, you can't say Shema without Seichel. It's a philosophical. So now we've moved out of our very prust gashmias. We're connecting upward to our emotions, and then we move past that. Then we move to our mind. That's the order. That's the order backwards of Asiya, Yitzira, Bria. And now we're ready. After we do that, that takes whatever amount of time it takes. We say Ashrei, we say Shema. Those are sort of the minimum things that we do. Then we're ready to say Shemona Esrei. Shemona Esrei is the world of Atzilus. Listen to this that Rav Chaim Volozhin says, Nefesh HaChaim. He says, before we say Shemona Esrei, at that moment you're not allowed to make any kind of hefsek at all. Not allowed to talk. Even something like, you don't talk ben gula l'tefillah. Gal Yisrael, Shemona Esrei. It goes, a lot of people don't even say Amen after the bracha of Gal Yisrael. Many shuls. And then you say this pasuk, which is not part of the Shemona Esrei. You say, Hashem svasai tiftach ufi agita. Hashem, please open up my mouth. Hashem svasai tiftach, my lips going over here. Ufi, because my mouth wants to utter your praises. That's the Nefesh HaChaim, like, we shouldn't be adding anything in between Gula and Tefillah. Why are we adding that? So he says, because we have no choice. By the time we get to Shemona Esrei, we have done hispashus. We can't talk. Now we're not allowed to talk. We can't talk. How could somebody talk when they've reached above their physical means, their emotional means, and their philosophical means, their intellectual means? How can you talk? With what? And yet, you have to say the Shemona Esrei. That's the din. Not only do you have to say the Shemona Esrei, you have to actually move your lips. You know, it's interesting because, like, when we were kids, we were told when you read, don't move your lips. Remember we told that? You know. And then come the second part of the day, we learn Torah. Make sure you're moving your lips. Okay, so somehow or another, I have to be able to take my gashmias and bring it into that ruchnias that way. I have to keep my feet on the ground a little bit, but I can't talk. If I'm where I'm supposed to be, I have to say a special prayer. I have to get on a special prayer, which says, Hashem svasai tiftach, ufi agi telosach. Please, Hashem, let me talk. Let me talk for a moment. So Nefesh HaChaim says, Reb Chaim Volozhin. So this is how we travel. But then, you know what? There's another step. The next step is, if you get to go to shul, the next step is Chazaras Hashatz. Chazaras Hashatz is when the Chazan repeats the Shemona Esrei. So that's usually a time to take a little bit of a break, to read a book, to, you know, check your messages, like Chazaras Hashatz. The Nefesh HaChaim, Chazaras Hashatz is even higher. Why is it higher? Because you don't even have to move your lips. You just have to listen. So even on a higher level. We said Hashem Sasai Tiftach, we talk, but then we get to a point where we don't have to talk. And at that point, we could say, for instance, if you're in shul, we could say Kedusha. What does that mean, Kedusha? Nekadesh es shimcha ba'olam. We want to say Kedusha. Kishem shematishim oisei b'shmei Mar. We want to do just like the Malachim do. That's what those words mean. Malachim say Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. We want to do that too. We want to jump up and down like Malachim. Why do we all of a sudden we're like Malachim? Because we've reached the highest level. And now we could really Nekadesh es shimcha ba'olam. Kishem, just like, you know, on Shabbos you say the deluxe version, you know, not Ritzach, not Dishach, like, but it's you know, just more time. Weekdays you say the short version. So let me wind down by telling you something. The Chassidim Rishonim took an hour to get down after Shemona Esrei. That's going to totally take me about 30 seconds. But you know, you come to shul to hear shofar. If you can make it, there's a special shofar blowing for the women, but come to shul, you can come to shul. Come to shul to hear shofar. There's two parts to the blowing of the shofar. There's the first part that we do before Musaf, and our Baal Tokea does a great job, makes the bracha, blows the shofar, 30 kolos. Then we daven Musaf, and then after Musaf, meaning during the repetition of the Shemona Esrei, we blow the shofar again. Altogether, we get 100 kolos. Comes to Shulchan Aruch, not here, in Hilchos Rosh Hashanah, it tells us that you have to always remember that the second set of Kehillas is the main ones. The first one are not the main ones. In fact, technically, you're allowed to sit for the first ones. You have to stand for the second ones. They're called Kehillas Demiyushav. You could sit for the first set of Kehillas. The second ones are more important. That's the actual Kehillas. Why do we do the first one, not the second one? So the Gemara asks this question, why do we do it altogether? What do we do it for? So the answer is, Kedei Laval Bel Sutton gets the Sutton mixed up. I don't know. But it's not the important one. Why is the second set of Kehillas by Musaf more important than the first one? You want to know why? Because it's during the repetition of the Shemona Esrei when we're quiet. See, because this stillness and this quiet is the goal of the whole thing. It's not just we're quiet, we don't talk. We're quiet, our machshavas, our emotions, ifnei Hashem titaru. And the shofar takes our, tefillos, our malchios, our zichronos, our shofaros, all the things that the tefillah Rosh Hashanah is about, and it brings it right up to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That can only happen if we're shut off a little bit. It's the only way that happens. So, I'll end on this note with an assignment for you and an assignment for me. Just something I think that, we need to be aware of. I always say this in this Kehillah, and I really mean it actually. Like, you're all tzaddikim and tzidkaniyos. There's no question in my mind. I mean, if you're not tzaddikim, who is? Especially came to Eretz Yisrael, people gave up so much for ruchnius and our children, and everything that we do is all based on how to be a good Jew, yeah? So this is for us. This is what I'm saying tonight. This is for us, for tzaddikim. And tzaddikim comes to davening, at least Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, let it all go. That's all I'm saying. Let it all go. All the thoughts, all the aggravation, all the ego, all the hate, all the sinas chinam, all the divisions that divide everybody. What? In the world of neshamas, those divisions don't exist. Instead, listen to the shofar and just let it all go. Our thoughts, our emotions, through the whole thing, and we're standing in front of Hashem. And Bezras Hashem, if we could accomplish this for a second, Kal V'chomer for a minute, or through the whole Chazar Sashatz, guaranteed, says the Shulchan Aruch, your tefillahs are accepted in Shemayim. So I wish everybody ksiva v'chasima tova, and la'alter, l'chaim, l'shalom, and we should have all good health and nachas from our children and from our families. HaKadosh Baruch Hu should help us here in Eretz Yisrael. We need a little bit of extra boost from Hashem over here. Who knows what he has in mind, but the biggest thing is shalom. I don't want to hear this bad news about our soldiers dying, although what a schus that they're willing to be moser nefesh for us and for Eretz Yisrael. Tens of thousands of people willing to be moser nefesh. Tens of thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people learning Torah. We're okay, but we need shalom. Shalom is the shleimus that we need. Shalom between ourselves probably comes first. Shalom with ourselves is right up there. Shalom with the goyim, that's a big one. And shalom with Hashem, even a bigger one. And everyone should have a good gebench shiur. Thank you for coming. Thank you for listening.